You've taken a wrong turn down Creep Street.
Citizens of the Milky Way, my name is Dylan Hackworth.
This is Maureen Bogey.
And this is Creep Street. Real quick, up top, as always, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please just take a second, go in there and give us that sweet, sweet 5 stars. But listen, if you're listening to us on Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, just keep listening where you like to listen, because what's important, obviously, is that you're listening. Also, real quick, on our Facebook, we have our main Facebook page. We started a separate little page within that page. It's like a little fan club where we can, at least once a day, Mo and I like to post articles or just get conversations started about movies we like or games we like, and all of you are welcome. All you got to do on our Facebook page, if that's something you're interested in, just find that thing. It's pinned to the top of our page. Anyone who's a fan, just click that and we'll let you into this group. If you like to talk about scary stuff or just want to say hello, that's wonderful. And of course, as we said, next month is Listener Suggestion Month.
That's right.
And obviously, do not feel bad if your episode doesn't get done in June. It will before long, and some we may even want to say for Halloween.
That's right, yeah.
I think that's something we want to do maybe a few times a year, is have a listener suggestion month. And obviously, we'll squeeze in listener suggestions even when it's not a listener suggestion month, when it fits the tone we're going with and all that. But oh my God, we love it so much that you guys are interacting. You know what? I've gone on long enough. Maureen, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about something so spooky and real. I love this. It's so cool. It is the Circleville Writer.
This is like the Watcher House turned up to 11.
Oh my God, for sure.
I'm so excited about this.
Another, series of weird letters, very ominous, very threatening. But this one, I would say more like conspiracy.
Conspiracy, yes, because here's the thing. There's so many things about this case that lend itself to the paranormal stuff. It's spooky.
Yeah.
It's spooky.
Yeah, truly. This story begins in 1976 in Circleville, Ohio. It's a small town in Ohio, about 25-ish miles outside of Columbus. There was about 12,000 people living there, so it's like, a small town, not super tiny, but, a pretty small town. Kids, white picket fence, everything's pretty normal.
Not the kind of place you'd expect shit like this to go down.
Some cuckoo-ness
is
about to happen in this zip code. So everything's like, oh my gosh, great, we're living in this Ohio town, what could go wrong? Yikes. Then all of a sudden, this dude starts sending letters to people in the town, and they're all written in this very strange block lettering. The only reason you would use it is to hide your actual handwriting in so far as writing ransom and blackmail notes.
Which makes you wonder, why not just type that shit? Granted, it doesn't have the aesthetic appeal that doing a creepy block handwriting. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want effect, you got to go for it.
Right. They did start using typewriters later on.
Oh, that's right. It reminds me of, at least here in the States, when we were little and they were teaching us how to write, it kind of has that look, but it doesn't look like a child did it. It's blocky, but it has this look of when you're learning to write your letters.
Yeah. So people are getting these letters across the town that are just kind of saying, these letters are just saying things about them for the most part, just kind of making it clear that this writer is watching them, kind of stalking them, being like, I know you have this many kids. I know you blah, blah, blah. I know this about you, whatever.
Right.
So that was all going on. But this one woman, Mary Gillespie, her story is really like the shining star,
It's the belle of the ball
situation. Baby. Yeah. So Mary Gillespie, she is a woman of the town. She is a wife. She is a mother. She is a bus driver. She receives a letter one day, one of these Circleville Writer letters. And it says,
"Stay away from Massey. Don't lie when questioned about knowing him. I know where you live. I've been observing your house, and I know you have children. This is no joke. Please, take it serious. Everyone concerned has been notified, and everything will be over soon."
Wow, thanks for the reassurance at the end, guys.
I know. It's like, what the fuck? Okay, so a little background info for you guys. Massey is referring to Gordon Massey, who was the superintendent of the school district.
And I'm assuming of which, the same school district of which Mary was a bus driver for.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. And so this person is saying, making it clear, I know you are having an affair with him.
Some extracurricular.
And a little, extra credit.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's a little scandal. And you'd think, oh my God, what a match. I mean, that's like the 1970s Pretty Woman.
Oh my God, it like kind of is.
Yeah.
But actually, though, we should write that screenplay. So that was the deal. So this writer was like, yo, I know this about your kids, okay? I know this. I know that you have them. I know that you're married, okay? And I know, so like shut this shit down. And Mary Gillespie just holds on to it. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't tell anyone or her husband or anything.
I would feel like if I were to receive a letter that accused me of having an affair.
Right.
And certainly if I was not guilty,
Right.
guilty of having an affair, probably the first thing I'm going to do is go, hey, Mo, I just got a letter saying I'm cheating on you. And also, even if you are guilty, I feel like I would be like, well, fuck. I'd want to beat this person to the punch.
Right.
I'd want to be like, hey, I'm so sorry.
I'm getting ahead of this.
Getting ahead of this, right?
Yeah.
But it just seems like if you weren't guilty, and I'm not, this is not, this story will unfold as we proceed.
It shall.
But it seems like to me, if someone accused me of something I didn't do, you'd probably be the first fuck. I'd be like, hey, honey, I got a letter over here. Yeah, it says I'm cheating. Is this the gas bill?
I mean, like, yeah. So it's fucking weird. Okay, so she just doesn't say anything. And then she gets another letter that once again is telling her to stay away from Massey, to end it, even threatens to put a bullet through her daughter's head. Mary still doesn't tell anyone. So...
Okay. And so right now, my brain is telling me, when your fucking child is being threatened...
Oh, okay.
Even if you did sleep with the superintendent...
Yeah.
Maybe tell somebody. I'm
right.
sorry, but whether you did it or you didn't, let's look out for those baby kids, all right?
But
anyway, proceed, please.
No, I know. It doesn't look good. So she gets another letter, very scary, doesn't do anything. Then her husband, Ron Gillespie, he gets a letter.
Oh, boy.
And in the letter, Ron was warned that if he did not inform the school board of his wife's affair with Gordon Massey, the superintendent, he would be killed. So Ron got a letter saying, hey, your wife is having an affair with you, and if you don't tell her boss, I'm going to shoot you in the head.
Jesus.
So a rough letter. Then Ron goes to his wife, Mary. He's like, hello, I just got this letter. Like, what the fuck? And Mary's like, hey, I actually got these letters too. I didn't want to, like, worry you. It's not true. I'm not having an affair. I thought they would just, like, stop on their own. Like, and for some reason, Ron just, who knows what the real dynamic was with their relationship or whatever, but he didn't go to the police. He didn't, whatever. He seemed to believe her. So he's like, okay, you say you're not having an affair, so like, okay, you're not. But we are so afraid of like starting the rumor that you're having an affair that we're not going to tell anyone about this. Even though it wasn't true. They weren't like, okay, this isn't true. Like, let's confront it. They were like, this isn't true, but we don't want to start a rumor. So let's still not tell anyone.
Exactly.
Not how I would handle this situation, but what can you do? Okay. Then about 2 weeks later, they still hadn't received any more letters. So they were like, okay, maybe just like the letters maybe they're just going to stop.
Maybe they got bored.
But then some more letters arrived and, threatening them to go public about the affair. Also in the letters, it said that if Mary didn't stop the affair with Massey, that the letter writer would share information via the media, via, TV, radio, news, maybe even put up billboards. Now here's an excerpt from one of those letters.
Defender, you are also a pig. Make sure to inform the school board. I'll run ads on CBS, posters, signs, billboards. Only pigs ride motorcycles.
And that's where that ends.
Right. Yeah.
This is, granted, like we said, this is an excerpt. We're not getting the full context. So I'm sure that was probably at least somewhat more eloquently written letter.
Right. But we don't have the whole thing.
We get the vibe. This person's saying, first of all, pretty ballsy to think CBS would give a shit about a bus driver in Ohio having an affair with a superintendent.
Well, I like maybe local CBS. I don't know.
Let's be honest. Okay, yeah. There's
News?
bigger fucking things to talk about. People
Yeah.
have affairs. Not saying that's good, but ladies and gentlemen, you shouldn't be getting death threats
Yeah,
for
like,
having
it's
an affair.
insane.
A little presumptive on the end of the Circleville Letter writer to just
Right.
assume CBS would give a shit.
Yeah. Well, this guy, I don't think this person
'Cause we'll
thinks the way that, most people think. So Ron and Mary are like, okay, you know what? I really think we got to do something. So they confide in 3 people. They confide in Ron's sister, Karen, Karen's husband, Paul Freshour, and Paul's sister, who I've never been able to find her name. And I do feel bad for her that all she's known as is Paul's sister, but I don't know her name.
And remember these names.
Yeah.
These 3 are going to be big players.
Literally every single article I read, every single video I watched, everything just said Paul's sister.
Paul's sister.
God bless. If Paul's sister is listening, you're more than Paul's sister. You're your own person.
Right.
So they were talking about what was going on and how scary this was. And while they were talking about it, Mary realized, she was like, you know what? I think I actually might know who's writing these letters. It's another bus driver, and his name is David Longberry. Now, David Longberry had made a pass at Mary.
Okay.
And Mary, rejected him.
All right.
And
Well, clearly, I mean, she's dating
she's already got a whole, she's busy.
superintendent.
She's busy, okay? Yeah, so she's like, no, I don't want to. And apparently he got very angry when she said no. She was like, you know what? I think this might be him. So Paul Freshour, Mary's brother-in-law, he wrote a letter to this man telling him that they knew what was going on. I know you're the one writing the letters to Mary and Ron Gillespie. Like, stop. And I also think they're also trying to keep it quiet. They don't want to bring in, all this stuff because they think it's going to make them look bad or whatever. Small town gossip. Always tell someone about this shit. If you're going through something like this, don't keep it to yourself. It just doesn't work. It never does. Okay. So a few weeks go by and they don't get any more letters. So they're like, oh my God, Paul, you fixed it. This is great. Then some large signs started to appear in the town, like handmade signs around the town that said that Gordon Massey, the superintendent, was sleeping with Ron and Mary Gillespie's 12-year-old daughter.
Whoa. Say that again?
Signs started coming up around the neighborhood, around the town, saying that the superintendent, who was supposedly having an affair with Mary Gillespie, was sleeping with Mary Gillespie's 12-year-old daughter.
So, wow. So this whole time, this person's threatening, hey, you're having an affair with the superintendent. If you don't say anything, I'm going to expose you.
Right.
So when it comes time to expose, they don't even technically expose. It's more about Massey.
They make it even... Right. Well, they make it about...
Part of me wonders, is this a way, because that lie, that's a very... That's a heinous, because we're talking about a child here. That is a very horrible, disgusting thing. Did maybe the writer thought, hey, I'll accuse them of this, that will then force them to be like, no. We were having an affair with each other. Almost as a way to like, whoa.
Right. Honestly, that's a really, really great point.
Because if it was two consenting adults, honestly,
then it's like, who fucking
it matters
cares?
to the families. But outside of that, it's no one's fucking business.
Yeah.
And who gives a shit? If you're not involved, who gives a fucking shit?
Yeah.
But when you're talking about a child, I wonder if maybe that was the writer's way of coaxing that confession.
Right. Yeah. That's a really good point because once again, in all of the articles I read, really that was just something they didn't even really write about how that affected Massey and how that actually is such a strong and disgusting accusation to make about Massey, when really they're all saying like, okay, so Ron Gillespie would like wake up early in the morning and take those signs down so that his daughter wouldn't see them and things like that.
And the daughter's 12?
Yeah. So sad.
The real heartbreak is because the poor daughter doesn't even know. I wonder if the parents even told. I mean, I don't
think
know.
they did. So that happened. But then, still, they're not like approaching law enforcement or whatever. At least as far as I know, they're not. Who knows? Maybe they actually did.
Well, law enforcement comes in later, and And there's a big old asterisk next to that, which we'll get into.
Yeah. So then in August of 1977, Ron Gillespie is at home with the kids, and Mary Gillespie is out of town, I believe, in Florida with Karen, her sister-in-law, and maybe some other friends, just like, having a good old time.
Just having some girls' time down in Florida.
You gotta do it, of course. Anyway, so yeah, Ron Gillespie is at home with his daughters when he all of a sudden receives a phone call. So no one knows for sure really what happened on that phone call, but what we do know is that after the phone call, he went up to his kids and he said, I found out who the letter writer is, or I know who the letter writer is. And then I don't know if he outright said, I'm gonna go get him, but that's what he was doing. He got his gun, kissed his kids goodbye, and got in his car.
So let me just recap for my sake.
Yeah.
Ron is the only adult.
Yes.
Present. Okay, so he gets a call, and obviously because of that, we obviously have no idea what was actually said on this call. It's a big part of this case where it's like, if you could know that,
it would answer so much.
There's a few moments in this case where if you could just know what happened there, it might solve everything.
Yeah.
And this is one of those moments.
And it's this whole ordeal with Ron right now is, anyway.
Creep Street, buckle up, because this is where it gets weird.
Yes. So, says goodbye to his kids, gets in his car, his red and white truck, which the person had said in letters that he knew that he drove that truck, whatever. And then he goes. Later, Ron is found. His car has wrapped around a tree, and he was pronounced dead on the scene. And they were able to tell from the gun that one bullet had been fired recently, like within that time, but they couldn't find the bullet or the shell or anything like that anywhere.
Wow. So he takes off. I'm just recapping this for me.
Yeah.
So he takes off, and whatever was said to him was so bad, kissed his children goodbye, went into the drawer, pulls out a gun.
Yeah.
Gets in his car, and the next thing we know, police arrive. So somewhere in this commute from the house to going to meet whomever made this call, Ron hit a tree and died.
And it's not far from the house at all.
Not far from the house at all. And here's the weirdest part. The gun he was holding at some point went off. It wasn't a suicide, obviously. He died in this car crash.
Right.
They don't think it went off because of the collision, right?
No.
They don't, because that's obviously what I thought. Oh, well, maybe in the collision the gun just fired, which after test they think it went off before then.
Right.
So that means whether by accident or not, that gun discharged.
Yeah.
Was he shooting at something? Maybe it wasn't an accident. Maybe he was shooting at something. That's what's fucking creepy.
Right.
That's weird. It's like maybe something scared him so bad he fired, lost control. That's weird.
Right. That's not the only weird part about it. So blood tests showed that his BAC, his blood alcohol content, was 0.16, which is about 1.5-ish times the legal limit in Ohio. So it said that his BAC is 0.16, but he was not a drinker. Some people say he didn't drink at all. Some people said he would just have the occasional drink, but he was not a big drinker. His children did not see him or did not know that he was drinking at the very least.
Right.
They weren't aware of it at all. And this would be something completely out of character for him to do. It's not impossible.
It's always a possibility that for whatever reason that day this guy who doesn't really drink was just fucking ripping shots.
Right.
But if we're going by history, the guy really wasn't a drinker. Certainly not one to get drunk and then drive.
Exactly. So his family, they were very upset with this because they just didn't believe it. This was just so unlike him. Once again, it's not impossible, but so the Gillespie family was like, I really don't think this is right. And they did not accept Sheriff Radcliffe's decision. Now, Sheriff Radcliffe is like, he did question one suspect about this odd crime, that this person passed a polygraph test, but shortly after Ron's death, a bunch of other people in Circleville started receiving their letters. So this wasn't just the Gillespies now. Other people were receiving letters saying that Sheriff Radcliffe had covered up the true nature of Ron Gillespie's death. And that the letter writer was so furious that the sheriff said that this was an accident, that this was a drunk driving accident, when this letter writer was saying, no, this was not an accident, which is just so weird. Sending letters just around to all people in the towns.
If this person writing the letters is to blame, You would think, wouldn't this be the best opportunity then to shut the fuck up?
But I think it's like the Zodiac Killer didn't have to like send letters to the newspapers to be like,
you're right.
Hey, like I think they want the notoriety. They like get off on it. So in these letters that said that Sheriff Radcliffe was covering up the true nature of Ron's death, the letters were also saying that Sheriff Radcliffe was involved in covering up a case that was against the county coroner, Dr. Ray Carroll. He had been accused of sexual abuse by several children.
Oh.
And so, yeah, the letter writer was saying Sheriff Radcliffe helped cover this up.
Oh, so this is, oh man, we are going down conspiracy territory.
Right.
So everyone's icky in this.
Right.
Everyone is icky in this. There's no halos in this fucking story.
Yeah, it's insane. And so if it doesn't sound weird enough already, Mary then says she actually is sleeping with the superintendent. Gordon Massey, the superintendent. So, but she says we only started seeing each other after the letters started coming, which makes absolutely no sense at all.
God.
Why would you'd be like, you know what, I'm getting these letters saying that they're going to shoot my kid in the head, but I gotta just get that sweet D.
God, nothing like the death of my spouse and the accusation of us having an affair and the accusation that you're sleeping with children to bring us
my
together.
Child.
Right, my child. Oh, now I'm going to go ahead right now and say that ain't on the up and
Chode alert?
Chode alert.
It's a chode alert. Okay.
Chode alert.
So she's saying she actually is sleeping with him. Some sources did say that she started sleeping with him after Ron died, not just after the letters. But either way, it's not great. Girl, you need to pass on that. Anyway, so Mary Gillespie kept getting these letters. So did people across the town getting these nasty letters and just feeling very violated.
It's come out, in terms of the affair, is finally out, yet the letters keep coming?
Yeah. I don't think the letters were only about the affair. I think this person was really getting off on making the whole town feel unsafe. And in 1993, Mary was driving her bus route, and there were signs all along the road of her bus route saying all like mean shit about Mary and how she like sucks or whatever.
Jesus.
And I guess this had happened like a few times, whatever. So this day, February 7th, I believe, she just was like, enough. I can't do this anymore. She pulls the bus over and she tries to take down one of these signs. And I think it literally says Mary Gillespie sucks, which is hilarious.
Yeah, like that's the one.
Which we'll get to. So she tears it down and she's like, wait a minute, this is kind of like weird. When I'm tearing it down, there's like this like weird box attached to it.
Because this was this on a mailbox?
No, this was just like on the side of the road, like on a pole. Okay. This person like really like took the time to like put these signs up on her. Like this person knew her exact bus route. You know what I mean? Like placing these signs on her bus route.
God.
She's like, fuck it, Mary Gillespie sucks. I can't have that out
Can't have that on your name?
No. After like all she's been through.
You might be seeing a fucking pedophile, but goddamn, I will not have this town thinking I suck.
Yes. By the way, I don't actually think he's a pedophile. He's probably not a pedophile. Exactly. But we don't, I mean, whatever. So she's like, I'm pulling this like sign down. Wait a minute though. What's this weird box on the end? I'm going to open it up. Oh my God, it's a fucking gun. And it's like this crude booby trap that what was supposed to happen was when she ripped the sign off of the pole, the gun was supposed to fire and it would shoot her in the head. But it didn't work.
Here's my thing. They must have just wanted anyone to die. Either they didn't care who died.
Right.
Because if you wanted one of them to die, why not set this up in their own fucking front yard?
Right.
So it's convenient that the one sign she happened to pull down was the one with the gun that did not go off.
Exactly. And I just simply need you to keep that in your sweet, sweet mind because it's going to come up in a bit here.
Okay.
It's going to be good. So yeah, so she's like, oh my God, I almost got shot in the head by this booby trap. Yeah. So she finally goes to the police. Like this is the like last straw.
Yeah. Didn't want to bother him.
And the police looked at the gun. The serial number of the gun was partially filed off. The gun belonged to Paul Freshour, who, if you will remember his name, he is Mary Gillespie's brother-in-law.
Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm. But he is actually her ex-brother-in-law because Karen and Ron,
who's Mary's sister.
Who is Ron's sister.
Oh, it's Ron's sister.
Yeah. So they're also like technically not because of, you understand. Karen and Paul got a divorce a few years before. Apparently it was a pretty nasty divorce.
Right.
And Paul got custody of the kids and he got the house. Just keep that in your mind.
Keep that in your mind.
Keep that in mind. So the police contact Paul Freshour because they're like, oh, this is his gun. So they get in touch with him, and Paul is just kind of like oblivious and naive. He doesn't have his guard up at all. They come over to his garage. Paul shows him where he usually keeps his gun, but that his gun was possibly stolen. He hadn't checked on it in a long time, but his house was recently robbed. Maybe someone did take the gun. He just didn't really know until recently that the gun was even missing. And they brought him in to the police station as well, and they were like, okay, here are the letters. We want you to try to copy the letters as close as you can with the handwriting. Like, try to make it look as much like that as possible. And Paul is just like, I'm just trying to help the team. So he does it. And then he is arrested for attempted murder on Mary Gillespie because they're like, your handwriting matches. It looks so similar to this, which is that, by the way, that's not how you're supposed to conduct a handwriting sample test.
Right.
And also, you know, it's your gun. So he is put on trial for attempted murder. So when Paul and Karen, his ex-wife, they got divorced, Paul got the kids in the house, and Karen actually had to live in like a trailer or an RV on Mary Gillespie's property. While Karen was living on Mary's property, Karen was saying things to Mary being like, hey, I'm very suspicious of Paul. I think that maybe he's the one writing these letters. I feel weird about it. She's telling Mary is saying like, yeah, maybe it is. So then when it was found out that it was his gun and that he was arrested for attempted murder, Mary and Karen and the whole family were like, oh, for sure. Like, it must have been him. He did have a strong alibi for the time of day and the day that booby-trapped gun was put up there, but he still was convicted of attempted murder. The jury, it only took them 2 hours to decide, and he got the maximum sentence, which is anywhere from 7 to 25 years.
Okay.
So he said he was just absolutely shocked. He actually said, I can't blame the jury because the jury didn't hear all the evidence, but I just couldn't believe it. I was really in shock. So everyone thought, because the trial was to see if he attempted to murder Mary, but everyone kind of knew that it also was to see if he was the letter writer. So when he went to jail, everyone in Circleville was like, okay, we're good.
Right. They're breathing easy now.
Yeah, that's not what happened. That's not
what
happened.
Damn.
I know, it's spooked. People in the town kept getting letters from the Circleville letter writer, and the letters were postmarked from Columbus, which, by the way, they always were. All of these letters were always postmarked in Columbus. Paul Freshour was in Lima, completely different part of Ohio, but Sheriff Radcliffe and many others in the town still thought that Paul Freshour was sending the Circleville letters from prison. So much so that Paul Freshour, for a good portion of the time he was in jail, he was in solitary confinement.
Jesus.
And they still thought that he was somehow sending the letters, even though he was in Lima and these letters were postmarked in Columbus.
They obviously see him all day, every day. Can't they see he's not?
There's literally no way.
Yeah,
exactly.
Fuck.
And then it ended up not just only being Circleville. It was kind of like just that whole area, like kind of central-ish Ohio, people were getting letters. They were like, there's no way that this could be him. So after 7 years in prison, Paul Freshour was eligible for parole. And everyone said he was a model prisoner. He did nothing wrong, got in no trouble. He was still denied parole because of these letters being sent. They thought there's just some way he's doing it. And then Paul receives a letter in jail, and it says,
Fresh hour. Now, when are you going to believe you aren't getting out of there? I told you 2 years ago. When we set them up, they stayed set up. Don't you listen at all? No one wants you out. No one. The joke is on you. Ha. Ha. Tell no one of this letter. I saw the paper. Great news. Great. The sheriff loved it. Ha ha! Do you believe it now? Do you?
What a tool. What a
Woof. Like this
What a
man, you
child.
ruined this man's life. Like, just let it go. So like, isn't that, so like Paul receives one of these fucking letters. Like, can you imagine? That is so terrible. And people are still just kind of like, I don't know. We think you're the letter writer though. And later even, a witness came forward, another bus driver, not the one that had hit on Mary before.
Okay.
That guy's name is David Longberry, who will come up, but not yet. This was just another fellow bus driver. They came forward. They said that about 20 minutes before Mary discovered that booby-trapped sign with the gun, they saw a sandy-haired man standing at the side of the road next to an El Camino. And when they saw the bus approaching, they kind of pretended like they were like peeing on the side of the road. And the
Matthew
person,
McConaughey?
it was Matthew fucking McConaughey.
Jesus.
He's so talented. But yeah, so this other bus driver comes forward and is like, I saw this guy, who by the way does not match the description for Paul Freshour. And also there were footprints apparently found on the scene that did not match Paul's shoe size. So they were like, okay, and what the fuck is this El Camino?
If you know, if Paul Freshour, just for reference, he looks like if Matt Berry was a 90s accountant.
Yes, that is 100% accurate.
Yeah.
So after 10 years in prison, Paul Freshour is finally paroled. And he was paroled actually because the prison warden came forward and made a formal statement saying like, there's no way that he is writing these letters.
Jesus.
Like there's
God.
literally no way. So after 10 years, he was paroled. And truly out of great coincidence of the universe, the lovely 90s TV show Unsolved Mysteries was already working on an episode about the Circleville Writer. Paul Freshour gets out of jail while this is happening. And he's like, hell yeah, I'll like come on the show and talk about it and everything, which is just like so cool. But when word got out that Unsolved Mysteries was making this episode, Unsolved Mysteries actually received a letter from the Circleville letter writer. And it said,
Forget Circleville, Ohio. Do nothing to hurt Sheriff Radcliffe. If you come to Ohio, you El Sickos will pay. Signed, the Circleville Writer.
You El Sickos.
yeah, that's hard to hear. So that's what happened. So Unsolved Mysteries got this letter and they were like, that's like, thanks honey, but like, no, we're going to keep doing the episode. And they did. And of course, nothing happened because these people are cowards. That's why they like do this shit. They did the episode of Unsolved Mysteries. Paul Freshour was on it. It's went on to be like one of the most successful episodes.
Right.
It's on YouTube actually.
We found it on YouTube.
Yeah, so give it a look. It's fun.
It's entertaining.
So Paul Freshour, he really used the rest of his life to maintain his innocence and try to figure out who the Circleville letter writer was and kind of figure out what actually happened to his former brother-in-law, Ron Gillespie. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2012, but before he died, he made a huge, super long booklet, I guess, to send to the FBI saying everything that he knew about the case, everything he thought about the case, and wanting to see this case solved. You can also find that online. It's super long, and I don't actually know exactly what ended up coming of this. I don't know if the FBI did anything, but he did send this to the FBI, and he came forward saying a couple of things that were very interesting, and I think will kind of lead to what I want to talk about, which is theories. What do we think was really going on? What's the deal?
One of the main reasons Paul Freshour was the lead suspect was because of that gun.
Right, was that gun.
There is no one who are really squeaky clean in all this.
Right. But in this letter that Paul Freshour wrote, he said that Sheriff Radcliffe wanted to be president of the National Sheriff's Association. And with the crimes with the county coroner, who was the one that was Sheriff Radcliffe possibly covered up the crimes for his sexual assault, he said that he covered that up so that the crime rates would be low in the county so that he could get the job of National Sheriff's Association's president.
Right.
So that is something that is, worth thinking about. So between all of the information that I've been able to put together, so now I kind of want to just check in on some of the people that we mentioned and kind of talk about possible scenarios, possible theories about what could have possibly happened. The county coroner, Dr. Ray Carroll, the one who I was just talking about, in 1993, he was charged with 12 counts, including gross immorality, sex crimes, corruption of a minor, pornography, obscenity, and indecent exposure. So you think
12 counts?
Yeah. So this man was a pedophile.
Everyone fucking sucks in this story to some degree.
So it's like Sheriff Radcliffe either did cover it up or he's fucking bad at his job.
Or he's fucking bad at his job. Yeah.
Right,
This
exactly.
is all this is all shit.
And so you remember that guy, David Longberry?
Fuck yeah,
He was the guy at the other bus driver at the beginning that was
Yeah.
hitting on Mary, and she was like, no. And then he was like, I'm fucking pissed. They thought he was the letter writer.
Right.
You know, this doesn't necessarily mean that he was the letter writer, but just to paint you a picture of who he is. In 1999, he raped an 11-year-old girl and then went on the run. So this person, another absolute fucking
Fuck everyone
monster
in this story. Fuck everybody.
Right.
I don't care who fucking did it. Fuck everybody.
Yeah. It's absolutely
Just fuck
insane.
everybody in this story. And not once do they even really give a shit about the kids. It's
No.
all about the fucking adults. Fuck all of them. Fuck all of them.
Well, that's why it's like you have got to just come forward and report these things. You cannot just if you're getting spooky ass letters, just tell your friends, man. So yeah, it's fucked up. So okay, this is a theory that I have read on a few different people have this theory, and I happen to very much agree with it. So the Circleville letters begin. I think they either started, I think David Longberry either started them, he was the other bus driver, or I think they did start, and then when Mary rejected him, he thought, oh, this is a chance I can use this. So I think he at least wrote the letters to the Gillespies first.
Right. Yeah, because that's also the reality. I mean, thousands of letters in total were actually sent. So maybe it was one writer working with this specific family, but you have to think either people in on it working together, or there's just fucking copycats who aren't related to it.
Exactly. And unfortunately, I don't know if we'll ever really know, but I do think it's one of the two. I do not think that this was all just one person.
Right.
So yeah, so David Longberry hits on Mary Gillespie, and she's like, no. And he's like, I'm upset. And then she's like, hold on though, I am gonna have an affair with the superintendent Gordon Massey. Fucking David Longberry finds out about this and he doesn't like that. He's upset. So he starts the letters to the Gillespies being like, this is all happening. Then I think either the phone call was from David Longberry, maybe the phone call was from Gordon Massey. I don't know. It's also possible that Gordon Massey was away with Mary this weekend when she says she's away with Karen. Who knows? She could be actually away on a vacation with, you know what I mean? I don't know what the deal is with what happened. Maybe it really was a car accident. I think that he at least saw something that he thought was the person, or saw something, so he fired the gun and then maybe lost control of the car. But maybe it was just a complete accident. That I don't really have any answers for, which sucks. So then after that, Karen and Paul Freshour get divorced because apparently Karen was having an affair.
Karen was, okay.
Yeah, so Paul was like, we're breaking up. A prominent journalist that wrote a lot about this case, he said that Karen was very manipulative and just always putting bad words out to everyone about Paul. She got the house and the kids back. So I think she didn't get the kids, she didn't get the house. She was living in this RV in her sister-in-law's yard. So she's like, things aren't great. She was so fucking pissed with Paul because of this that she set him up. And I think Mary Gillespie was in on it. Once again, not all of the letters from the beginning. I think she was in on the attempted murder, quote unquote, attempted murder.
Oh, wow.
Of herself. I think it was a setup because, so a few questions. Paul Freshour's gun with the serial number partially filed off, or scratched off. Why is it partially? Just do the whole thing.
You're either going to get it all off, or you're just going to be too stupid not to even think of it.
Right.
You're not going to start and then be like, fuck it.
It's enough. Yeah, you're going to be like, I'm going to make sure that this is gone. Also, what are the chances that Mary pulls down the one sign that has the booby trap on it? So I think that's odd. Also, you may remember that the other bus driver, once again, this bus driver wasn't named, not David Longberry. This was just a coworker. When they said they saw a sandy-haired man with a yellow El Camino 20 minutes before Mary took down the booby trap. Karen's boyfriend, who ended up being her husband, had fit that description. He had sandy hair about that height, build, everything. And Karen's brother had a yellow El Camino. And eventually the letters kind of stopped, at least as far as I know. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's still, popping off there, but I don't think so. So long story short, I think it started off with one or two people being the letter writer, and it just bloomed. I think either, like you said, a bunch of people took this as an opportunity to stir up shit in their boring town.
Right.
Or it was a group of people working together who were somehow getting off on creating chaos in this town.
That's wild.
Like, that's what it's like. This is so similar to the Watcher House, but this has so many actual implications. Like, someone
actually fucking died.
Someone went to jail for 10 years.
Exactly. Wow.
Wild.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up for the Circleville Writer. Once again, my name is Dylan Hackworth.
I'm Maureen Bogey.
And this is Creep Street. Citizens of the Milky Way, good night and goodbye.
Goodbye.